Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a moment in every life when a man must look in the mirror, not just to check his reflection, but to challenge it. Today we talk not of endings, but beginnings, the birth of a new man. Not just a better man, not just a wiser man, but a completely transformed man. A man reborn not by chance, but by choice. A man no longer shackled by regret, fear, or past failures, but one who rises with resolve, purpose, and clarity. Self-reinvention is not a spontaneous event. It is a deliberate, often uncomfortable journey that begins with a deep dissatisfaction with the status quo. It starts when a man looks at who he has become and quietly admits, "This is not who I was meant to be." That moment, though silent and internal, is monumental. It is the first spark in the fire of change. The realization might be painful. He may see wasted time, broken promises, or unfulfilled potential, but it is also the beginning of something transformative. He understands that the man he has been up until now does not have to dictate who he will become tomorrow. The process of reinventing oneself requires brutal honesty. A man must be willing to confront the lies he has told himself about his limitations, his worth, his abilities, and his purpose. He can no longer afford to hide behind excuses or project his failures onto others. Self-reinvention demands that he strip away the masks he wears for acceptance and expose his true self, even if that truth is currently broken, confused, or lost. This stripping down is not weakness. Ima Kannatik Tarko B Jo Jamima Jo Kamima. Okay. Yalaikala Sakera Zito Mama Make Reinvention also requires sacrifice, letting go of familiar but destructive habits, relationships, and environments. These things may offer temporary comfort, but they also act as anchors, preventing forward movement. A man must decide whether he wants comfort or growth, because he cannot have both. This choice is often painful because it means parting ways with what feels safe. But within that discomfort lies the seed of change. The man who chooses reinvention chooses to burn the bridges that lead back to his old self, not out of anger, but out of necessity. Discipline becomes the foundation of self-reinvention. A new man does not simply wake up and remain new by default. He must commit to routines, practices, and mindsets that support his transformation. That might mean waking up earlier, surrounding himself with mentors, reading books that challenge his thinking, or spending time in solitude to rediscover his inner voice. These daily acts, though small, accumulate into something powerful. Each one reaffirms the new identity he is building. Each one distances him from the man he no longer wishes to be. Moreover, self-invention isn't about becoming someone else. It's about becoming who he was always meant to be. It's not a disguise, but a return. Underneath the fear, the laziness, the doubt, there has always been a man of strength, clarity, and purpose waiting to emerge. Reinvention. It's the unearthing of that original self, the one not corrupted by comparison, not silenced by failure, and not beaten by rejection. It is not the creation of a false persona, but the alignment with his highest truth. And that truth only becomes visible once he clears away the noise. Lastly, self-reinvention requires patience and persistence. The journey is neither short nor straight. There will be setbacks, moments of confusion, and even urges to return to the old self. But each time he chooses to keep moving forward, each time he stands back up after a fall, he affirms his rebirth. The man who reinvents himself does not seek perfection, he seeks growth. He is not focused on speed, but on, and slowly, surely, consistently, he shapes a new life. Not by accident, but by conscious and continuous evolution. True transformation begins the moment a man accepts full ownership of his life. This ownership means acknowledging that regardless of external circumstances, the direction of his life lies in his hands. It is easy to point fingers at upbringing, society, or even luck when things go wrong. But real change only begins when excuses are silenced. A man reborn does not wait for others to save him or change his situation. He understands that blaming others only delays progress. Owning one's story means taking control of the pen and deciding how the next chapter will be written. Taking responsibility does not mean everything is your fault, but it means everything is your problem. Life is not always fair, and injustice exists, but the new man understands that fairness is not a prerequisite for action. He does not dwell on how things should have been. He focuses on what he can do now. If a relationship fails, he reflects on his role in it. If he feels stuck in his career, he asks what he can learn or change. This mindset removes him from the victim mentality and places him into a position of power. A power rooted not in control over others, but in command of himself. Responsibility sharpens a man's character and defines his integrity. He tries to come on doing what needs to be done, even when no one is watching. Beha, responsibility is not always glamorous. It's always uncertain. It's often risky. But this consistency is what builds trust, not just with others, but within himself. Every responsible action deepens his belief in his own ability to lead his life with purpose. This sense of ownership extends into every area of life: health, finances, relationships, emotions. A man no longer says, "I'm just not a morning person," or "I can't help it. That's just how I am." He understands that everything is a choice. How he eats, how he reacts, how he spends his time. When he fails, he does not shrink from the results. He studies them, learns from them, and adjusts. This is the hallmark of maturity, taking responsibility not only for success but also for mistake. This kind of radical accountability transforms him from a passive participant in life to an active, intentional creator of it. Owning one's emotions is perhaps the most difficult yet most liberating form of responsibility. The new man refuses to let anger, jealousy, fear, or sadness control his behavior. He acknowledges these emotions, examines them, and decides how to respond. He does not lash out or numb himself with distractions. He pauses, reflects, and acts with intention. This emotional discipline does not make him less of a man. It makes him more of one. It gives him the power to lead, to love, and to live without being a prisoner of fleeting feelings. Responsibility is the soil where respect is grown. First self-respect, then respect from others. A man who takes ownership earns the trust of his family, his peers, and even strangers. People begin to look to him for guidance, not because he demands it, but because he has proven he can handle it. This is the kind of man who becomes a stabilizing force in chaos, a calm foundation in uncertain times. He becomes this not by chance, but because he has chosen to carry the weight of his own life without complaint, and in doing so has risen into his true strength. Pain is often misunderstood, feared, and avoided, but for the man seeking rebirth, pain is a teacher, not a tormentor. It is through struggle that strength is built, through loss that gratitude is deepened, and through suffering that clarity emerges. Most people run from pain, suppress it, or pretend it doesn't exist, hoping comfort will shield them from the sting of disappointment or failure. But the new man understands that pain is not his enemy. It is his crucible. It refines him, burns away what is weak, and reveals what is real. Rather than escaping it, he learns to face it head on and ask the hard question, what is this pain here to teach me? The birth of a new man is impossible without going through the fire of adversity. Just as metal is melted before it is molded, a man must be broken down before he can be rebuilt. Pain uncovers the flaws that comfort hides. It reveals where he is undisciplined, where he is emotionally immature, where he has compromised values. These revelations hurt, not because they are cruel, and in that truth lies the opportunity for real transformation. No growth ever comes from hiding in safety. The greatest breakthroughs are born from breakdowns. Pain builds emotional muscle the way physical resistance builds bodily strength. It trains the man to endure discomfort, to carry burdens, and to keep moving even when his heart is heavy or his mind is exhausted. With each hardship he faces, be it betrayal, loss, rejection, or failure, he learns resilience. He discovers that he is stronger than he once believed. He learns that healing is not about forgetting pain, but learning how to live through it without losing himself. And in time, pain no longer paralyzes him. It prepares him. When a man grows through pain, he begins to see the world differently. He becomes more empathetic, more grounded, and more real. He no longer scoffs at other people's suffering because he knows what it feels like to struggle silently. Pain humbles him. It strips away arrogance and makes room for compassion. The man who has cried and stood back up is the man who will offer his hand to someone else, still on the ground. Growth through pain does not make a man bitter. It makes him better, if he allows it to shape him. The relationship between pain and purpose becomes clearer as the new man evolves. He realizes that the very moments he once wished to avoid, those that brought him to his knees, were the ones that pushed him toward his mission. The pain he endured becomes the fuel for his passion, the foundation for his strength, and the evidence of his endurance. He no longer curses his past. He honors it. Not because it was easy, but because it birthed something greater in him. Every scar becomes a symbol, not of defeat, but of survival and growth. Lastly, the man who embraces growth through pain develops unshakable confidence. He no longer fears the unknown or the possibility of failure because he has already been through darkness and came out wiser. He trusts in his capacity to endure, to learn, and to rise again. While others are terrified by the thought of discomfort, he welcomes it as a sign that he is still alive, still moving, still evolving. He knows now that pain is not the end. It is the beginning of something profound. And in that truth, he finds a strength that cannot be stolen and a wisdom that cannot be taught in comfort. Discipline is the bridge between who a man is and who he is destined to become. While comfort offers temporary relief, it often leads to stagnation, regret, and the slow erosion of potential. The man being reborn understands that his future cannot be built on fleeting pleasures or easy choices. Discipline, by contrast, is difficult and often thankless in the moment, but it produces long-term growth and lasting satisfaction. The new man does not wait for motivation. He acts from commitment. He wakes up and does the work, not because he feels like it, but because he has made a promise to himself that cannot be broken. Comfort whispers seductive lies. Rest a little longer. You've done enough. You can start tomorrow. These are the very voices that the old self listened to. The voices that made excuses, avoided discomfort, and justified delay. But the new man identifies these thoughts for what they are: distractions. He understands that comfort is a thief in disguise. It robs him of energy, purpose, and time. And time is the one resource he cannot earn back. Discipline, on the other hand, is clear, sharp, and sometimes painful, but it speaks the language of progress. It says, get up, keep going, do what must be done. Discipline is not just about routines or rules, it is about identity. The man who chooses discipline over comfort is not just changing his habits, he is reshaping his entire self-scene. He begins to see himself as someone who follows through, someone who shows up consistently regardless of how he feels. He becomes dependable not only to others but to himself. This internal trust is powerful. When a man believes in his ability to control his actions and emotions, he gains a level of confidence that comfort could never offer. His word becomes his law, and he holds himself accountable, even when no one is watching. Choosing discipline means doing the hard thing, especially when no reward is guaranteed. This is where many fail, because the results of discipline are rarely immediate. The workouts that don't show instant change, the studying that doesn't yield instant results, the quiet sacrifices that go unnoticed, these are the hidden investments that pay off later. The new man learns to fall in love with the process, not just the outcome. He understands that consistency beats intensity. It's not about the occasional heroic effort, but the daily small choices that over time build greatness. He trains his mind to stay focused on long-term vision rather than short-term pleasure. The disciplined man also knows how to delay gratification. He doesn't need constant entertainment, approval, or indulgence to feel satisfied. He understands that real fulfillment comes not from escaping challenges, but from overcoming them. Every time he says no to something tempting but unproductive, Whether it's scrolling endlessly, procrastinating, or indulging in negative habits, he strengthens his willpower. And willpower is like a muscle. The more he uses it, the stronger it becomes. Through repetition, he becomes a man who doesn't just resist temptation, he outgrows it, and discipline becomes his source of freedom. While others are enslaved by their impulses, the disciplined man moves with control and clarity. While others are dictated by moods and circumstances, he lives by principle. He is not driven by how easy something is, but by how meaningful it is. Discipline becomes his quiet companion, often unnoticed by others, but deeply felt within. It gives him mastery over his time, his body, his mind, and his path. And in choosing discipline over comfort again and again, he builds a life not of convenience but of greatness. Living with purpose is what separates a man merely surviving from a man truly alive. Without purpose, a man drifts, day to day, year to year, chasing distractions, reacting to circumstances, and settling for less than he is capable of. The new man refuses to live this way. He wakes up each day with a sense of mission, knowing that his time is limited and his energy must be directed. He no longer asks, "What do I feel like doing?" But instead, what needs to be done. These people don't do this. There's in as much people do this. They take themselves in the active spit. Purpose demands alignment between thoughts, actions, and values. A man who lives with purpose does not compartmentalize his life. He strives to ensure that what he says, what he believes, and how he behaves are all moving in the same direction. This alignment requires constant evaluations. He no longer engages in habits, conversations, or relationships that pull him off course. He says no more often. Not out of arrogance, but out of focus. Living on purpose means protecting his time and energy like sacred currency. Every day becomes an opportunity to invest in something that matters, something bigger than himself. The journey to discovering one's purpose is not always immediate. The new man understands the true current how can impact others. But it is always unstable through pain, through desire. The new man understands it comes not always immediate. It often comes through some coin. This shift from self-centered ambition to service intuition mission marks the birth of a man who is no longer lost in pursuit of empty achievements. Purpose gives a man something to stand for, even when it's unpopular or uncomfortable. In a world filled with noise, distractions, and moral compromise, the man of purpose becomes an anchor. He knows who he is, what he believes, and what he will not tolerate. He does not bend with every opinion or trend because his direction is not dictated by the crowd but by his internal compass. This conviction may cost him popularity, ease, or comfort, but he is willing to pay that price. Purpose does not make life easier, it makes it worth it. And when storms come, it is his purpose that keeps him grounded. Living with purpose transforms ordinary moments into meaningful ones. The smallest tasks take on significance when they are connected to a greater cause. Whether he is working, training, parenting, or speaking, the man of purpose brings intention to all he does. He does not waste energy on aimless living. He understands that greatness is not just achieved in public victories, but in private disciplines and quiet consistency. Purpose infuses his every day with a sense of urgency, not panic, but passion. It reminds him that time is sacred, that each day is a building block of his legacy. Lastly, purpose provides resilience when motivation fades. Feelings are unreliable and inspiration is fleeting. But a man driven by purpose does not depend on mood to move forward. He is not easily distracted because he knows what is at stake. When others quit, he continues. When others lose focus, he sharpens his vision. Purpose gives him a reason to rise every morning and a reason to keep going. When everything else says stop, it becomes his fuel, his fire, and his reason for enduring pain, discipline, and hardship. And through that relentless pursuit, the man of purpose becomes a force that cannot be ignored or forgotten. Leadership by example begins with personal accountability. The new man understands that the most powerful form of influence is not what he says, but what he consistently does. Words can inspire for a moment, but actions build legacies. He no longer waits for others to take charge or complains about the lack of leadership in his environment. Instead, he becomes the standard he wishes to see. Whether anyone is watching or not, he conducts himself with integrity, discipline, and responsibility. He knows that true leadership begins in silence, in private, when no applause is given, but character is being formed. The man who leads by example lives in alignment with his values, not his convenience. While others bend under pressure, he remains firm because he understands the weight of his choices. His values are not flexible based on who is around or what he might gain. He models consistency, not perfection, but unwavering commitment. People learn from his life without needing a lecture. Children watch how he handles stress. Colleagues notice how he shows up on time. And friends respect how he stands by his word. In this way, he influences not by force, but by being a living demonstration of what integrity looks like. He understands that leadership is not about control, but service. Leadership by example means putting others first, not for recognition, but out of principle. The new man becomes a servant in his home, not demanding respect, but earning it through sacrifice. He supports his community by contributing, not criticizing. He leads at work by doing more than what's expected, and owning both success and failure. He does not command loyalty. He cultivates it through humility and consistent effort. The power of his example quietly teaches those around him what it means to lead with heart, not ego. When challenges arise, the man who leads by example becomes a source of stability. In times of chaos or uncertainty, people instinctively look toward those who embody calm, strength, and clarity. The new man does not panic or point fingers. He steps up, he solves problems, takes initiative, and leads with courage. He absorbs pressure so others can function. He does not crumble under responsibility. He thrives in it. This reliability, born from his inner discipline, gives those around him a sense of safety and trust. Leadership isn't something he claims. It's something he earns through presence, action, and resilience. Leadership by example also requires vulnerability and honesty. The new man does not pretend to be flawless. He admits mistakes, acknowledges weaknesses, and remains open to growth. This authenticity strengthens his leadership because it shows others that they too can lead without being perfect. He doesn't hide behind a mask of superiority. Instead, he invites others to rise with him by embracing both strength and softness. He redefines what it means to lead. He proves that courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to keep showing up with honesty and conviction, even when it's hard. Ultimately, the man who leads by example leaves behind more than just accomplishments. He leaves a legacy. And as he continues to lead quietly but powerfully, he inspires others to rise, not by commanding them, but by walking beside them and proving that greatness is not declared, it is demonstrated. A new man is not born in one dramatic moment, but through the quiet discipline of daily rebirth. This concept goes beyond a single act of transformation. It is the ongoing decision to rise again and again, regardless of what happened yesterday. The man who embraces daily rebirth understands that growth is not a destination, but a continuous process. Each morning presents a new opportunity to shed old patterns, outdated beliefs, and yesterday's failures. It is a fresh start. But empowered by who he was, but empowered by who he chooses to become. ആദ്യം Daily rebirth requires intentional reflection. The new man does not blindly repeat his routines. He examines them. He asks himself hard questions. What did I do yesterday that held me back? What can I improve today? Am I acting in alignment with my purpose? These moments of reflection are not meant to bring guilt but awareness. He uses his past not as a prison but as a classroom. Each day, he extracts of mindful living, ensures that no day is wasted and no mistake is repeated. Without meaning, consistency is the soul of daily rebirth. The man who commits to change once and expects lifelong transformation is chasing a fantasy. True change is not an event, it is a pattern. The new man understands that showing up each day, especially when it's hard, is where the real transformation occurs. It's in choosing to work out when he doesn't feel like it, in choosing to forgive when resentment feels easier, in choosing focus when distractions call. These small, often unseen choices become the bricks that build his new foundation. Rebirth happens not with fireworks, but with repetition. A daily rebirth also demands the courage to let go of what no longer serves him. This includes relationships, habits, mindsets, and even versions of himself that once felt comfortable. The man evolving must be willing to break away from the old self daily, even if that self feels familiar. He does not cling to his identity for comfort. He challenges it for growth. He asks not, "Who was I yesterday?" but "Who must I become today to reach my potential?" It is powerful. It is the bravery of self-satisfaction, of refusing to remain stagnant. Discipline plays a key role in maintaining this cycle of rebirth. The emotions are not mechanical tasks. They are sacred checkpoints. They remind him that every day is a gift and a responsibility. Discipline becomes the fuel for his renewal, helping him to stay grounded when life becomes chaotic and focused when the world tries to distract him. Each disciplined act becomes a reaffirmation. I am still choosing to grow. The man who is reborn each day lives with urgency, not haste. He recognizes the value of time, not as a pressure, but as a gift. He does not delay action or wait for perfect conditions. He speaks when it matters, acts when he must, and lives with intention. He understands that each sunrise is not just a new beginning, but a sacred chance to be better than before. And though the world may not always notice his inner transformation, he feels it. Every day he becomes a little more focused, a little more refined, a little more unstoppable. Not because the world changed, but because he chose to. So, to every man hearing these words, understand this: it is never too late to begin again. to define, experience, and embrace the birth, pain, and persistence. The name is not a new man, begins not a saved enough. And from that moment on, you don't just live, you lead, you grow, and you rise again and again. The world doesn't just need more men, it needs new men. Will you be one of them?